Hi, I'm Eden Lane. Today we're at the Buell because Central City Opera has come down the hill to bring their production of Showboat to life on the stage at the Buell Theater. We have a chance to meet some of the artists and the directors to find out all about this project and how this special event came together. We begin with my visit with the director of Showboat at Central City Opera, Ray Roderick. Thanks for stepping out of your tech rehearsal to talk to us about this really special production by the Central City Opera at the Buell Showboat. How did you get connected to this project?
Well, I've had the great fortune of directing a lot of shows in Denver.
In Denver?
Mostly at the Denver Center.
But not with Central City?
No. Most of them have been via my producer and good friend Randy Weeks and his pal John Eckerberg at the Denver Center. So I've directed a lot of shows here, and I've had a lot of shows from New York that have come here to the Buell or to the Alec Hawkins or many of the theaters here. And so when they were looking to bring Showboat from Central City to the Buell, I had some experience with the venue, so they brought me in to direct it.
Is this the first time you're directing with an opera company?
It is.
What is that difference for you to go from directing a musical theater production with a musical theater company to doing musical theater with an opera company?
Well, it's different in many respects, mostly because of the process and traditions they have for putting an opera together are different than the traditions that have evolved in the world of musical theater.
Yeah.
And yet, in terms of the artistry, it is very much the same. And dealing with artists is dealing with artists, no matter what show you're doing. So as much as it's different in terms of how the mechanics work, the actual hands-on of working with artists to tell a story is very much the same.
Helping them with their performance, helping them tell that story.
Yeah, using music and lyrics and dance and lighting and all the things we do to get the story told on a stage. It's not any different. And this is, at its core, this is still a musical comedy and considered by most the very first book musical, written in 1927, produced by the great Florence Ziegfeld in New York, and of course a score by Jerome Kern and lyrics and libretto by Oscar Hammerstein.
When you're helping translate this piece for this opera company, what was the biggest surprise? I mean, you're nearing the end of the process and turning it over to them in the audience. What was the biggest surprise so far?
I think the biggest surprise, and I think at this point what I'm most proud of, is how we have all of these wonderful artists, singers. We have an orchestra, a 38-piece orchestra on stage as well.
You have to say that again because I don't think people realize it.
A 38-piece orchestra on stage all night. It's part of the concept of the show. We built them into the set, sort of metaphorically, in our vision. The orchestra, this music that keeps rolling along, is the showboat. It is sort of the river. It just keeps moving. The emotion of the story keeps going forward. So that was our concept, and I think it's working beautifully. And it's thrilling to see, ultimately, over 100 bodies on the stage at once. These 70 singers, artists, from many walks of life, in different worlds, I would say. We have a chorus that we've put together.
With a wide variety of experience.
Correct. We've got, a chorus of 30 that have come together that are local Denver talent to play one part of our story for us. We've melded them with our amazing trained opera voices from Central City, who are the young artists and the apprentices who are, going to be the new stars of opera, bringing together opera stars and Broadway stars, that caliber of talent to play for the principal roles. So it's this wonderful combination of storytellers. Now, to me, it's like an orchestra. Not every voice, every instrument in the orchestra sounds the same.
Right.
You have a bassoon, you have a violin, you have a French horn, you have trumpet cutting through. But together, when they play together, it's a glorious thing. And when you have a group of storytellers of different walks of life, of different voices, as it were, coming together to tell the story. To me, there's a great truth in that, because that's the way life is. We're not all the same.
And that's pretty true to the people that you're telling the story about as well.
That's correct. And that's a big part of what the story is,
Mm-hmm.
is that this is a story that does deal with a very challenging subject, racism. And it did in 1927. Imagine in 1927 them deciding, oh, we're going to do a big Broadway musical. And once again, produced by Florence Ziegfeld, who's known for giant girly shows, basically. That's what he was known for, right? And here he is doing this cutting-edge musical that was glorious and huge and big and epic, but in dealing with something that was almost taboo in storytelling. It was very difficult, especially on a Broadway stage. And he did it, and a huge hit.
And it was expensive to do, so the stakes were quite high.
But I think if I heard this, that it would have, if it hadn't been a hit, it would have probably done him in that moment.
Yeah.
But these are big. This was New York. I mean, these were people, were artists that were wanting to take big risks and do great things, and they did. And it's a story that we still need to hear today. Unfortunately, I will say that.
Yeah.
But it's still the themes of this story. We still need to hear. Now, I'm talking about, that's the umbrella for the story, but the real story at its core is a love story, and it's multiple love stories. It's not just one. There is a very uber romantic love story of Magnolia and Ravenna, which is sort of, to me, is almost Gone with the Wind like, in terms of this relationship. Now, in our story, we choose a very story that we really do put a bow on this story, and I want to intentionally, that love does conquer all. But there's also these other love stories between Parthy and Andy, which is a very adult love story. There's a more fun comedic love story between Frank and Ellie. There's a tragic love story that is also infused with hope. You just talked to Julie. Mm-hmm. The story of Julie is it's a tragic love story. I mean, these are all very different love stories, but at its core, this show is a love story.
So it's still cutting edge, even in 2013.
It
in that story, multi-layered storytelling.
When I first got my hands on the libretto and started really looking, we chose intentionally, very, very intentionally, to do the Hal Prince libretto that was created in the 90s, along with Susan Stroman. They really did some interesting things with tightening up the storytelling and keeping it very streamlined and connected, that the relationships were very connected, which I really like. And so we've held on to that. And, but, it's these, that Oscar Hammerstein could write such complex love stories in 1927 that still are very, very truthful in terms of it not just being, a pedestrian. These are it's a
Boy
very
meets girl. Here's a song.
It's
they
a
break
very
up together.
dense. This is a very dense book
with a social justice perspective as its backdrop.
Absolutely.
You talk about this company that's come together to produce this for Central City Opera, and you're doing it here in Denver, Colorado. But to hear you describe it, it sounds like the kind of project that would only be done in a major metropolitan center for the arts like New York. Yeah, what is it like to do that here?
Well, I mean, to me, it feels like this once-in-a-lifetime event, because to make this happen, you've got to bring so many worlds together, and that the logistics of that are quite complicated, and not only complicated, but just to get those resources, to work together is a big deal. So I think the impact, I often say our special effects in this show are the artists, are the human beings. To put that many artists telling a story together is special effects to me.
And you get to do it here.
We get to do it here.
As opposed to we all have to travel somewhere to see this.
That's right. And it's not it's its own animal. It's not some sort of, we have made this show here based on the talent and the resources that we have here at the Buell.
Well, I'm so excited for opening night. I know it's closing in on you as we're sitting here visiting, and I appreciate you carving out time to visit with us and share it with our viewers a little bit. I can't wait to see it.
Thank you. I just want to add one thought here, which is in 1927, when the show was written, it really was written and created for these kind of voices that we're going to hear in this production.
Legitimately trained.
Yeah, they were opera trained. They did operetta, but they were trained. They were vocally trained, as we will hear tonight. Now, for me, it's a thrill with this 38-piece orchestra to hear this music soar in this way. And I think it's what it's meant to be.
I can't wait. Thank you for making the time today.
Thank you.
I'm tired of living and scared.